back on your end?
Not yet. Let me reload. See. Yes. You were alive. Thank you. For some reason, the picture
So let me go.
it's tiny. Let me see if that's me.
Oh, it's a tiny thing? Yeah.
It's a tiny upper left-hand corner thing.
How about now?
Just so you know, hold on.
How about now? Oh, you see it, right?
So, on the live stream.
Say that again?
You may want to mute it because I can hear everything on the live stream.
Yes. So, hold on.
So I hear me.
Okay, how about now? You don't hear it, right?
Say that again.
No?
So just give us a second.
Yes. So, okay, how about now? You don't hear it, right?
I still hear.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. So I just move you out of speaker. It works. You can see them well, right? Okay. Okay, I think we're good. You want to be on the, do you want to put your team viewer just to be on the safe side? Okay, hold on.
yata for the sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Chana Mahamudra Mani Padme Jvala Pravartaya
Please join in chanting of the three refuges, first in Sino-Korean and then in English. Shin Quimyane Shivan Samse Cheman Chahe Sanju When
Kwimyang Ne Shivan Sam Se Shemang Cha He Sam Shu Il She Shivam Sam Se Shemang Cha He Sam Ju Il Che Sam Gaya
And now in English. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
and realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
I go for refuge to the Dharma
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
And now please return for another shorter period of meditation, followed by a Dharma talk. Please follow along as we do some stretching. And our camera will be moved closer, so we'll pause while that's happening. Good morning. So warming the hands and the face. In particular, placing the palms on the eyelids is very relaxing. And then just breathing into these exercises, working with the top of the skull. And the earlobes. Placing your knuckle right on your nose. You can really feel the breath. And now a nice stretch of the lower back. Breathing in, we stretch upwards. Breathing out, we fold forwards. Breathing in. Breathing out, we stretch to the side. Breathing in, stretching to the other side. Breathing out. Clasping the hands behind the back. Breathe in, and then as you fold, breathe out. Returning to the seated position, we do the spinal twist. First to the left, bringing the eyes around as far as you can. And then to the right. Placing the hands on the hips, on the thighs, the upper thighs. Nice big circles. And reverse. Placing your hand at your side, lean to the right. And then the left. Grasping the hands behind the head. Raising the arms to the sky. And then 10 abdominal breaths. Helping us feel awake and ready for our Dhammapada reading today. And this one is coming from the chapter, see the name of the chapter here. The dark. Sometimes the marker is not in the right place. Okay, here we go. For if in your renunciation you are reckless and break your word, if your purpose wavers, you will not find light. Do what you have to do resolutely with all your heart. The traveler who hesitates raises dust on the road. It's better to do nothing than do what is wrong. For whatever you do to yourself. Like a border town well guarded, guard yourself within and without. Let not a single moment pass, lest you fall into darkness. Feel shame only where shame is due. Fear only what is fearful. See evil only in what is evil, lest you mistake the true way and fall into darkness. See what it is, see what it is not. Follow the true way. Rise. So, good morning, dear Dharma friends. I'm Ma one of the priests living here at the temple. This morning, and Hayun, our Dharma teacher, is with us. So this morning, Hayun and I walked to Burns Park, a couple of blocks away, for early morning meditation. And as we sat in meditation, 6:30 in the morning, we heard birds, we saw the earth come to life, and the lines from Song of Meditation that came to mind were, sit still, rest. You're one with all beings insentient. Rocks, trees, mountains, rivers, clouds, sky. Breathe, concentrate. You're one with all beings sentient. Birds, animals, insects, worms, fish, humans. And indeed, especially with the sentient beings, we felt very connected this morning. The birds, the insects, and the animals. There were 6 dogs in the park this morning running around, playing with one another. So that's an experience of feeling very connected. And then a few days ago, when it was raining, I was sitting alone in the Buddha Hall meditating. And my experience of meditation was, physically, I noticed that my breath was a little bit short, my heartbeat a little bit rapid, my muscles were in this state of tenseness. And I had this longing for others to be with me, perhaps a response of even wanting to run away. So this physical response is known as cortisol, and cortisol kicks in when we're having various kinds of emotions. Normally I would have thought, oh, that must be fear, and I would have labeled it as fear. But actually these same responses are associated with loneliness. And so that's our topic today, this idea of loneliness and how we can look at it and work with it from a Buddhist perspective. It's coming up a lot lately, especially as we begin to emerge from the pandemic and people start coming around to the temple for Saturday afternoon gardening practice, or just to visit outside and have a cup of tea. And I've heard this comment more than once. Gosh, it's so good to see you. I didn't realize how lonely I really was. So it's nice to be able to see people's whole faces not covered by masks. It's nice to know that they have legs and feet and can walk about. So this experience of loneliness has been particularly acute for us this year. So I think I'm one of those people who may be a little bit better adapted to deal with loneliness, having lived really the single life for decades, and just understanding and knowing the freedom of being able to choose a schedule that suited my needs, to be self-reliant, independent, all of these things. So there were many benefits to that, living alone. And by nature, I think I'm kind of an introvert. I'm not the type that prefers parties. I was speaking with a temple member the other day. His name is Marichi. He's a fellow member of the Ma family. And we were talking on the phone. And he was saying that this pandemic has been a different experience for the introverts versus the extroverts. He called them cats and dogs. So I'm more of a cat. And then there are those who are more dogs, who just really want and crave that social interactions. Interestingly enough, animal companions, cats and dogs, have been so important in this pandemic. Their constant presence, providing warmth, touch, unconditional love. So I want to share a few statistics about loneliness and why it is important for us to look at. And then we'll go into more about ways that we can deal with loneliness in our Buddhist practice. So in 2018, just before the pandemic, 27% of adults over 50 said they felt isolated. And in 2020, the first 3 months when the pandemic was especially raging, 56% felt isolated. So that's like a doubling in this sense of loneliness associated with the pandemic. And we know that loneliness was on the rise even before the pandemic. There was an NPR poll in 2018 that, or more recently, the NPR, they did the poll in 2018 and 2019, and they found a 13% rise in adult loneliness. They identified that some of the loneliest groups already before the pandemic were men, Generation Z, those aged 18 to 22, new employees, and heavy social media users. Those who reported that they had close friends at work or had a healthy work-life balance were less lonely. University of Chicago Medicine defines loneliness as a universal condition that makes a person irritable, self-centered, depressed, and it's associated with a 26% increase in the odds of premature mortality. So it does have these physical effects. The ones that I was describing associated with the release of cortisol, those also are related to heart conditions, the rapid breathing, the rapid heartbeat, tense muscles, these kinds of things. So it's interesting that loneliness has become such a concern that in Britain, they've actually appointed a minister of loneliness. And her name is Tracy Couch. And she says that digital connectivity is one of the possible causes, especially those in the younger age group. On the other hand, where would we be without that digital connectivity during this pandemic? In some ways, it was a lifesaver. So loneliness is associated with not being in good relationship with others. Sometimes we look around and we can be in a whole crowd of people because we seek crowds to reduce our loneliness, and yet we still have it. I looked in the dictionaries for what the definition is. Collins says that it's the quality or state of being alone, so that's pretty neutral. It can also be defined as solitariness, a disposition to prefer to be alone. That sounds more like my introvert kind of status, introvert kind of preference. And then the Oxford Dictionary, sadness, because one has no friends or company. The quality of being unfrequented or remote, isolation. So from a Buddhist perspective, loneliness is a state of mind, or perhaps a feeling. So it's both positive and negative. And I think it's important for us to keep this in mind because we often associate the negative aspect with loneliness and want to run away to get rid of it, when instead we need to understand it deeply and make friends with us. So if you look in the Buddhist tradition, this loneliness or aloneness, you can see both these positive and negative definitions. So there is a sutra called the Rhinoceros Sutra. Some of you may have heard of this. It's one of the earliest Buddhist scriptures in the Sutta Pitaka. And basically, it's an essay about the value of living a wandering, solitary life. And so this is the solitary monk that you think of going through the forest. And it says such things as, for a social person, there are allurements. On the heels of allurement, there is pain. Seeking allurements, draw back, wander alone like a rhinoceros. So this image of the rhinoceros is a solitary animal in seeking their own path. So and then the Dhammapada also tells us it's better to wander on alone rather than with a fool for company. But we know, and so that's the instance of choosing our friends wisely. But we also know that this wandering on alone can make us lonely. And it can lead to this sense of not feeling connected. So we are all born alone. Essentially, we all die alone. But this time in between when we live our life is a time to explore our interconnectedness. So also sort of exploring in Buddhism the negative aspect of loneliness. We have the 5 remembrances. And one of the remembrances is, all that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. So there is this sense of separation. So then how do we deal with loneliness when it arises? Let's explore a few practices that are available to us as Buddhists, and also just some of them just practical everyday life kind of advice. So when we practice meditation, when you're feeling lonely, actually that is a good time to practice meditation, to see what it is that you can discover. So you can pay attention to those physical sensations that are arising, but then go a bit deeper. And as you drop into more of a sense of observation and awareness, perhaps you'll take a journey that feels more like the trip to Burns Park, in which we are simply aware of our interconnectedness to the universe around us. So Thich Nhat Hanh has, his poetry is well loved everywhere, but one of his writings about interconnectedness is as follows. Walking slowly in the moonlight through the rows of tea plants, I noticed my mother was still with me. She was in the moonlight, caressing me as she had done so often. Very tender, very sweet, wonderful. Each time my feet touched the earth, I knew my mother was there with me. From that moment on, the idea that I had lost my mother no longer existed. All I had to do was look at the palm of my hand, feel the breeze on my face, or the earth under my feet, to remember that my mother is always with me, available at any time. So again, feeling our sense of interconnectedness. Each week on Wednesday evening, when we have our member sitting, we discuss passages from Song of Meditation. And here's one I particularly like. Here's a song for your everyday Dharma life. Meditation is knowing yourself. Knowing yourself is setting yourself free from delusions. Setting yourself free from delusions is becoming one with what is. Becoming one with what is enjoying formless life every day. Enjoying formless life is seeing yourself everywhere in happiness and sorrow. So we value and treasure our meditation practice as a way for us to bridge to the experience of interconnectedness, to let go of the delusion of separate self. Separate self, I think, really is a good description of what loneliness is. So in the Parinirvana Sutra, one of the scripture that describes the Buddha's last days, one of the last things that the Buddha said was, Ananda, be islands unto yourselves. And sometimes that's translated as lamp. So be islands unto yourselves, refuges unto yourselves, seeking no external refuge. The Dharma is your island, the Dharma as your refuge, seeking no other refuge. So we turn to the teachings that are available to us, this idea of islands and the strength within us. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about this in terms of finding your home. And so the way that then we build out of loneliness is we find the home within ourselves. And once we find that home, we're able to help another person find their home. And then we have a collective home. And from this collective home, we can build a wider home for everybody in our family or our community. And so it extends out to everyone. So that is how we start from the island and make it into an experience of interconnectedness. Some practical advice. Choose social activities with intention, especially as we emerge from the pandemic. Think about who are your good friends. We were having a conversation this morning at breakfast about friendships and recognizing that we have limited time and energy, and building friendships, being vulnerable, growing together, these things take energy. So be a little selective about your social activities, and especially as we are able to see each other in person, how about just putting down that cell phone, getting away from the social media that can create this isolation, and instead just going for a walk with someone. Gratitude practice or random acts of kindness has a way of reducing loneliness, because then you can see how you have made a contribution to someone else or to the world around you. And then let's use our learnings about loneliness. I think we've all learned a lot this past year. Perhaps as motivation to engage in change. It's an opportunity for us to create greater social harmony and to address conflicts, get beyond the conflicts. I want to read a little story from Old Path, White Clouds. Those of you who attend Peace Camp may be familiar with this story. It's about conflict, it's about social harmony, and what that means in terms of interconnection. So the Buddha was living with a group of monks who they got into this sort of argument. It was over a scriptural kind of issue. So it was an argument between the precept master and the sutra master. Both said that the other had made a transgression and needed to apologize. And so this kind of fight was going on. And they went to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, "Please cease your arguing. It's only creating division in the community. Please return to your practice. If we truly follow our practice, we will not become victims of pride and anger." And one of the monks stood up and said, "Master, please don't involve yourself in this matter. Return and dwell peacefully in your meditation. This matter does not concern you. We are adults and capable of resolving this on our own." So the Buddha said, "Okay, well, if that's how you feel." He just stood up. He didn't say anything. He stood up. He walked away, and he went off on his own. And so in his travels, he first went to a solitary monk. His name was Bagu, and asked him, "Well, how is your practice going?" And Bagu replied that he found great ease in dwelling all alone. The Buddha remarked, "Sometimes it's more pleasant to live alone than with many people." And next, he went down the road and encountered 3 of his disciples living together. They They recognized him, greeted the Buddha with joy, said, come be with us for a little while. Their names were Anuruddha, Nandaya, and Kambila. So Anuruddha said, Lord, we care deeply for each other. We live in harmony like milk and honey. I consider living with Nandiya, and Kambila a great blessing. I treasure their friendship. Before I say or do anything, whether they are present or not, I stop and ask myself what their reaction would be. Would my words or actions disappoint my brothers in any way? If I feel any doubts, I refrain from the words or actions intended. Lord, though we are three persons, we are also one. The Buddha nodded his approval. He looked at the other two bhikkhus. Kambila said, Anuruddha speaks the truth. We live in harmony and we care deeply for each other. Nandiya said, we share all things, from our food to our insights to our experience. So the Buddha spent a month with these three bhikkhus, and he observed how when they went begging every morning, the bhikkhu who returned first from begging always prepared a place for the others to sit, gathered water for washing, set out an empty bowl. Before he ate anything for himself, he would place some of his food into the empty bowl in case one of his brothers had not received any food. After they've all finished eating, they placed any leftover food on the ground or in the stream, careful not to harm any creatures that lived there. So this is a description of sort of the joy of social harmony when you can achieve it. And then before the Buddha left the three bhikkhus, he offered them these guidelines for realizing harmony. And so I give them to you for your consideration. Number one, sharing a common space, such as a forest or home. This is a way of achieving harmony, social harmony. Number two, sharing the essentials of daily life together. Number three, observing the precepts together. Number four, using only words that contribute to harmony, avoiding all words that can cause the community to break. Number five, sharing insights and understanding together. Number six, respecting others' viewpoints and not forcing another to follow your own viewpoints. So this one is about deep listening. So from individual practices that we do alone to practices that we do with our immediate friends and families, to practices that we do with our community. Let's use the loneliness that we have encountered over this past year to try to build something a little more beautiful as we emerge from the pandemic. So, as we begin to close, I want to acknowledge that this is just kind of scratching the surface. As I said at the beginning, I'm not a person who has had lots of experience with loneliness, or at least I don't acknowledge that I have. And for those of you who are feeling it much more deeply, much more acutely than I am, you all have your own stories. Some of that may involve trauma. Some of that may involve, this need to touch others or to connect with others in different ways that I've been describing. So as you are an island unto yourself, what that means is you're your own lamp. So please look within yourself and see what your wisdom is and follow that. So thank you for being with us today. And I'll close with the 4 great vows, and then we'll have some announcements from Hayun. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Blind passions, one root, I vow to terminate. Dharma gates, one mind, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to realize.
Hope you're not dizzy. Okay, got the blank wall behind me. Good morning. Thank you so much, Ma'um, for that. Kind of segues nicely into our announcements for today, because our announcements, a lot of them have to do with opening up. Our culture's opening up, our society's opening up, and we at the temple are slowly opening up. So I wanted to talk to you about a few opportunities that we have. One of the things Ma'um mentioned was living together in harmony. And this summer, we actually have a special opportunity for people who would like to explore Zen practice a little more deeply by living at the temple. We have a summer program which involves some practice. You follow the temple schedule, you prepare communal meals together and eat together, have Dharma discussions together, do some study and other Dharma experience together. It's really a lovely program that we're conducting here at the temple, and we're vaccinated. So if you're vaccinated, or if you have a test and you test negative for COVID before you come, you are welcome to come experience this summer with us. And you can stay for as little as a few days or for as long as the summer lasts. So we welcome you to contact us if you have an interest. The email address here is Ann Arbor Zen Temple, all one word, @gmail.com, or our phone number is 761-6520. So contact us if you'd have an interest in spending a little time deepening your practice, exploring what Zen meditation and Zen Buddhism is all about. And living at the temple, it's really a joyous thing to do. Secondly, Ma'um had mentioned our Wednesday evening group. We do on Wednesday evenings have an opportunity, and you can do this from wherever you live, whether you're in the area of Ann Arbor or elsewhere, to connect with us, because we do it on Zoom. So we have a little meditation on Wednesdays beginning at 6:30. Then we have the 3 Refuges, and then we do a little chanting and a big discussion, and it's just a vibrant, lovely group that really has some just penetrating things to say about the Song of Meditation, which we're studying now. So we would invite you to join us in that too. Again, Ann Arbor Zen Temple @gmail.com. Finally, I'd like to mention our garden program. We actually have an intrepid group of garden Dharma warriors who come on Saturday afternoon from 3 to 5 p.m. And Ma'um and Haju will have you doing all kinds of things, from weeding in the garden to planting things to putting compost on, and just all the kinds of things that make our landscape and our gardens so beautiful. And I think one of the common denominators here at our temple is that when people see our gardens, our yard, our chicken coop, our temple, temple pond, they're just really put in a very peaceful place. And so it's a joy to help contribute to that. So show up at our temple, 1214 Packard. Just come straight through the gate to the back area, and we'll all be meeting there. We've had a lively crowd lately, so please join us 3 to 5 on Saturdays. I I think that's it. Is there anything else?
No, I'm coming to sit by you.
Oh, well, this is Dharma friendship. We're
This is
sitting
Dharma
next to each
friendship.
other.
We're sitting next to each other. Hopefully, yes, you can see us both. And so let's go ahead and sing Haju's favorite song. And we express gratitude, particular gratitude to our tech team today, who was scrambling until the dot of 10 o'clock to get things going. And Pashu is on TeamViewer, and hopefully she can end our stream for us right after we do this song. So please join us.
Oh, and we have to thank Cesar, too.
Oh,
my
Cesar.
gosh.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Pulled us out of the fire.
He did. Cesar is Haju's son-in-law who is visiting this weekend, along with her daughter Komani and their two kids, Violet and Azure. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
No coming, no going, no after, no before. I hold you close to me. I release you to be so free, because I am in you and you are in me, because I am in you and you are in me. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for your support. We love you. We can't wait to see you.